Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Shiva's Hub, the Medical Cannabis Chronicles. Today we are going to talk about global regulatory landscape. In 2026, the exact same plant can get you a doctor's prescription in one country, a small fine in the next, and in a handful of places, a prison sentence or worse. There is no such thing as the cannabis law. There are dozens of them, and they often contradict each other across a single border. So, today we are not talking botany or genetics. We are looking at how the world actually regulates cannabis, the treaties underneath it all, the handful of models every country picks from, and where the major markets stand right now. One honest disclaimer before we start: this is a high level overview, not legal advice, and this area changes faster than almost any other area of law. What's true when I record this may shift within months, so treat this as a map of the terrain, not a substitute for checking the specific rules of specific place. So, in our first segment, we are going to talk about the treaties underneath everything. Here's the thing most people miss: individual countries are not writing cannabis policy on a blank page, they are operating under international drug control treaties above all. The 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, backed by two later conventions from 1971 and 1988. For most of modern history, cannabis sat in the strictest possible category of that 1961 treaty, alongside the drugs considered to have the least medical value and the highest risk. That changed in December 2020 when, acting on World Health Organization recommendation, the UN's Drug Policy Commission voted to move cannabis out of that most restrictive schedule. The point was not to legalize anything. It was to lower the barriers to medical research and medical use. And that distinction is the key to whole topic. The treaties permit medical and scientific use of cannabis. What they don't clearly permit is a commercial recreational market. That single tension explains almost every odd decision choice you will see later. Why Germany built non-profit clubs instead of shops, why some countries call their retail experiments scientific pilots, and why the countries that went fully commercial are technically in tension with the treaties they signed. Once you know the treaties are the ceiling, the whole messy global picture collapses into just a few models. Almost every country is sitting in one of these five models. 1. Strict prohibition: cannabis is fully illegal for any use. This still covers large part of Asia, the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa, and in some places the penalties are severe, up to and including death penalty for trafficking. 2. Decriminalization is still illegal, but possessing a small amount is treated as a minor administrative matter, a fine, not a criminal record. Crucially, there is no legal way to actually buy it. Portugal is the classic example. 3. Medical access. Doctors can prescribe cannabis for defined conditions, usually dispensed through pharmacies. This is why far the most widespread form of legal cannabis. Roughly 50 countries now have some kind of medical framework. 4. Partial or non-commercialized legalization. Adults can possess it, grow a few plants, or get it through non-profit clubs. But there is no open commercial retail market. This is the model Germany and Malta choose. 5. Fully regulated commercial markets. Licensed businesses grow and sell cannabis to adults, taxed and regulated like alcohol. This is the rarest model of all. The takeaway, legal, is a slippery word, decriminalized, medical only, and fully commercial are three completely different words, and people constantly confuse them. So, where does everyone actually sit right now? At the very top, fully commercial nationwide for adults, the list is remarkably short. Really, just two countries, Uruguay, which became the first in the world to fully legalize back in 2013 and runs a tightly state controlled residents only system through pharmacies, and Canada, which legalized nationwide in 2018 and runs a mature commercial retail market. Then there's the United States, which is category all its own, a state by state patchwork where more than 20 states allow commercial adult use sales, even though federal law tells a very different story. More on that in a moment because it's where the biggest news of 2026 is happening. In Europe, you see the whole spectrum at once. Non commercial club and homegrown models in Germany, Malta, and Luxembourg, the same republic moving on reform, decriminalization across much of the continent, medical only access in places like the United Kingdom, and government run pilot programs in Switzerland and Netherlands. And then the strict end, much of Asia and Middle East where cannabis remains fully prohibited, sometimes with the hardest penalties on earth. Zoom out, the pattern is clear. The Americas and Western Europe have been losing while much of Asia and the Middle East hold firm. And as we will see, some places are actually tightening. Rather than march through every country, let me give you three that each teach something different. First, the United States, the great contradiction. For decades, cannabis has been in the most restrictive federal category, Schedule 1, the same tier as heroin, even as state after state build legal markets. That gap is finally starting to move. In April 2026, the federal government rescheduled a specific slice of cannabis. FDA approved cannabis medicines and state licensed medicine cannabis down to Schedule 3. Everything else, including all recreational cannabis, stayed in Schedule 1. And a broader hearing on whether to reschedule all cannabis is happening right now in the summer of 2026. But here's the crucial nuance most headlines get wrong. Rescheduling is not legalization. It mainly changes how medical operations are taxed and how research is permitted. Federally, cannabis is still a controlled substance. The US shows you how slow and partial reform and can be even when the directions seem obvious. Second, Germany reform in phases and not always forward. Germany legalized medical cannabis back in 2017 and then in April 2024 passed a landmark law letting adults possess cannabis, grow a few plants, and join non-profit social clubs. But notice what it did not do. It did not open commercial shops. That commercial pillar is still stuck in pilot program limbo. And most strikingly, by 2025 and 2026, the government was moving to tighten its medical rules, cracking down on remote telemedicine prescriptions over concerns the medical route was being used as a backdoor to recreational access. Germany Germany is the reminder that reform is not a one way street. Third, Thailand. The cautionary tale. Thailand stunned the world by effective decriminalizing cannabis in 2022, and a huge, barely regulated market exploded almost overnight. Then the politics shifted. In June 2025, the government reversed course and reclassifying cannabis flower as a controlled herb and restricting it back to medical use with a prescription. The Thailand is living proof that legalization can be rolled back. Put those three together and you get the real headline of global cannabis regulation. It is not a steady march toward legalization. It's a patchwork that moves in different directions at different speeds and sometimes backward. Now, for anyone working in medicines rather than consumer market, there's more important thorough line here and easy to miss under all the headlines about recreational reform. The recreational debate is loud, but the medical framework is where the stable, durable structure actually lives, and it's the part the international treaties clearly permit. Around 50 countries now run medical program, most of dispensing through pharmacies on a prescription under pharmaceutical grade quality standards with cross border movement controlled by strict import and export permits under those same UN treaties. That's a fundamentally different regulatory world from dispensary selling to walk in adults. It runs on medical medicine law, prescriber oversight, quality certification, and traceability. And while the recreational map lurches around, that medical infrastructure has been quietly and steadily expanding across Europe and beyond. So, to pull it together, there is no single global cannabis law. There is a mosaic sitting on top of international treaties that permit medical use but resist commercial recreational markets. Every country picks from about 5 models, from strict prohibition to fully commercial. Legal can mean wildly different things. Fully commercial markets are still rare, essentially Canada, Uruguay, and a patchwork of US states. Medical access is far more common and far more stable, and reform is generally reversible, as Thailand just showed. If there's one thing is takeaway, it's this: never assume cannabis regulation from one country tells you anything about the next. Always check the specific market because the rules and the direction of travel differ everywhere and they change constantly. That's the global picture. Thanks for watching.